Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 2. This week, we are going to start our escape room assignments, and you can find those under our modules tab. Let's go there to week 2. Under module 2, you're going to see that we have a cost effectiveness analysis as well as an assessment for the cost effectiveness. If you click in, you're going to notice there's several resources that you can review, and these very helpful. I also post a few in my announcements. I've tried to start including them into this part of the assignment as well. So some of them you will see the same ones. Before you get started on the assignment, I would like you to go to especially this number 3 one. It's a training that goes over both the CEA that we do this week as well as the CBA that we do next week. It kind of details more about what these analyses are used for in the real world, as well as some healthcare examples that may be directly applicable to what you're doing at work now or perhaps in the future. If you do complete this training, they do give you a certificate. It's from the CDC, and then you can add that to your compass for this term. So that's pretty helpful as well. It gives you something to add. I think this is very helpful because often when I get questions on the CEA, they're like, oh, they ask about this, but they don't really understand what a CEA is. And this is really that key to get you to that understanding, because it's not quite as vital for the assignment, because I'm going to walk you through that now. But on the quiz, you will have several quiz questions that require you to apply some of the things that you learned when you did the analyses, or just, in general, okay, why did we do this? Why did we go there? And having this understanding is super helpful. So that's why I recommend doing it first. And then once you feel like you're ready to go and you have an understanding of what cost effectiveness analysis is, you can scroll down here to our assignment, and you're going to notice there are a lot of different files, which can be a bit overwhelming. So we're going to go through each one, and I'm going to explain a little bit about each one to you so that way you can get started. The first thing we're going to do is read the scenario. So click that top link, and then first what I'd like you to do before you read the scenario is click on this top where it says escape room flow. And this is going to tell you the document order. I'm going to give you an email that goes over the order as well for each week. I'll send those out usually on Sundays. And these will detail specifically, okay, we move from this file to this next file, but this has it as well. So if you ever get confused or want to start early, this flow can be super helpful. So that way, you're going into the documents in the correct order, because it's great to find the right password, but if you're trying to open the wrong file with that password, you're still not going to be able to get in. So you can see here kind of where to start and where to move. And then this is our second puzzle, the CBA, and our final puzzle, the CUA. Once you're finished, you'll note that you're going to have to enter a password from each of our assignments into that final escape. And that final escape is just one quiz question that will require the codes written in order, and it's worth 50 points. So I'm going to make sure that you get the most points, because you don't want to have to go back and redo any of these analyses. I think people enjoy completing them, but don't really necessarily want to complete them multiple times. So let's go back, and then we can go through our scenario. This scenario will be similar. It's the same for all 3 escape room assignments. And then you're going to come together as a group and write a brief group paper. And so we're going to use this for the entirety of the course. And we are going to look at Seahawk Medical Center. They have some issues in a number of areas, and that's what the scenario is going to go through. Some of the metrics, where they're at. And then for each assignment, we're going to learn about a specific difficulty they are facing, and we are going to help them to improve on that. And so after you read the scenario, we can go directly into our cost effectiveness analysis assignment. Same thing we were looking at before. You're going to see this is our specific assignment for this week 2. So you can click in And then it's going to talk to you about what's going on at Seahawk Medical Center. So this medical center does not have a hand hygiene compliance monitoring program, and they're having struggles getting people to wash their hands. And so the staff will go into a patient room and they should wash when they enter the room as well as when they exit, and they're not seeing that happen. So we are going to conduct a cost effectiveness analysis. So for this analysis, we are going to look at a number of different compliance options. We are going to track the costs of those options as well as the expected compliance rate for when they're done. So research has shown if you implement certain programs, you're going to get certain increases in compliance. So our goal is to minimize the cost and maximize the compliance rates. And so that's sort of what you're going to think of when you think of cost effectiveness. We have a range of costs and a range of effectiveness rates. We call those compliance for this particular example. And so we're going to compare the two. You can use this in a number of different types of scenarios, but typically it's something that really looks at both cost and compliance rates. And it may not be compliance, it could be effectiveness. You could be looking at, a different motive to treat cancer. Different things cost, the equipment would cost certain things, the medication, and then the effectiveness, which would be, how many people were cured from their cancer based on this particular medication or something like that. And so this kind of gives you a brief overview. You'll probably want to learn more, like I said, in those different compliance. And then it's going to tell you kind of what to do. It's going to tell you how you're going to get the codes, what you're going to need, and I'll let you read through that on your own. The document I'm going to give you, I'm still kind of working on it right now, but it is, it's going to look similar to this. I've done a similar version in previous terms. It's going to go over how to calculate each one, the different passwords you'll need to get to the next one, the documents in order. And so that's going to be helpful to you as well. If you ever get stuck, I do have office hours every weekday. And so you can feel free to either sign up for those, or you can just send me an email and I'll send you my Zoom link and we can get together. I also host a weekly session on Thursdays, usually Thursday evening, that goes over any questions you might have. You can come to ask questions. I could go over things with you. So if you're stuck, those are good ways. I also always recommend if you have a question and you really want to move forward, just email me your spreadsheet so I can see where you're at. And then that way I can help you get back going again. So if you ever feel stuck, those are the quick and easy ways to get responses so you can get back going. The goal of this assignment is for you to learn how this is conducted, not to be like a punishment. And so I think sometimes when you see a lot of documents, you can see otherwise. And so I want to encourage you in that respect, that this is definitely to move you forward. If you ever do something and you're really just stuck, please do let me know because I'm here to help you. Also, if you take the quiz, you find, oh, I didn't do well on this quiz, I can always let you try it again if you email me prior to the due date and we get that started. If you don't do it until Sunday night, it's kind of harder because that module week is over. But if you do it earlier in that module week, it's easy to go ahead and just reset. And then, if something major is off, we can also meet by Zoom and go over some things as well. So for this assignment, I'm going to go through it just a little bit. First file we're going to look at is this hand washing observations initial. We're going to click download. It's going to open without a password. So we're going to go ahead and open this file. You will need the desktop version of Excel to do this assignment. So if you do not have the desktop version, either find someone who has the version or get the version. It's really up to you. You can always use a library, something like that, if you do not want to purchase it for some reason or something like that. But if you're trying to use it without the desktop version, you won't be able to do some of this information, particularly opening the files that have passwords. They will not open. So the first thing I always recommend for each file is to highlight it all, right click, copy, and then open your own file to paste it. You have a hard time sorting data whenever it is set up in a file like that, because there are already different formulas in that, and you're going to want to sort this data, and it's easier to sort it if you're not in that area where they have formulas. So plus at the end of the week, you are going to submit these Excel spreadsheets. For this week, we have the most spreadsheets to submit. So if you put them here together, you will have them in a file that is not password protected, because like I said before, the passwords you are going to need for that final escape room code. And if you have passwords still on them, if you're submitting passwords to me in your submissions, that's fine. But if you cannot reopen those later to do that final password, that can be very frustrating. So please go ahead and move these over to a separate file. That way you can just submit the entire workbook to me and you can reopen it later. Conversely, if you'd rather not do that, I would recommend if you choose to leave them as such here, I recommend you go in and click file and then save as, and save that with that password as part of the file name, so that way you can get back into it. So for the first part of this assignment, if you notice, we have a lot of data. We have 50 people, staff observations, there's 50 people, and we are watching them wash their hands for a period of time, just to see. It's always good if you're going to try to improve compliance if you actually know what compliance is currently. So we are going to look at current compliance and see where we're at to get a baseline. So this was done, and you'll read more about it in the scenario over a period of time. And you can see this first person, the staff member, did not wash their hands when they entered, and they did not wash their hands when they exited. This information is just the shift they worked, the date, and such. And so then we have a little bit of information here. This is called binary data. Binary data is such that it's used in statistics, mainly for logistic regression, but it can be used for any type of regression. But it basically gives you a true or a false. Typically the false is a 0 and the true is a 1. This one is not quite right. We need to at some point get this updated. But 0 for this one is did not wash their hands both times, and 1 is that they washed their hands both times, enter and exit. So if you notice here, this person washed their hands when they entered, but not when they exited. So they would still get that 0 because they did not wash both times. Now, we also want to know, did they wash their hands at all? And so that's what column H tells us. H is going to tell us 0 means they washed at least once, and 1 means they did not wash at all. And so if they washed at least once, they'll get a 0 in there. Once again, it's a little backwards. We need to get that flipped. But here they did not wash at all, so they get a 1. We don't want to see 1s in this column because that means they didn't wash at all. And our final column has the hospital unit. And what we're first going to do is we're going to fill out this chart right here. And we can do that by sorting the data. And that's what makes moving it to a different file so helpful. So we can highlight these and go to data. And then we can sort that data. And we can sort by our hospital unit and then click OK. And so what we're going to notice here is now all of our data is in order. So we're going to go through one together just to get you started. So we can go over here. And see that I like to highlight this information. This helps me to know, this helps me to know what I've done and what I'm working on. And I'll highlight each one in a different color. So our first hospital unit is CCU. We notice there are 5 people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this unit. So there are 5 people observed. So we would put 5 here. Our total observations are going to be 10 because we observe each staff member entering and each staff member exiting. And so the count of enter, exit, or enter hand washes is up here. So how many people, when they entered, washed their hands? And we can see out of 5, the 3 people entered, 1, 2, and 3. So we are going to go down here and write 3 entered, and then how many washed their hands when they exited. And so we can go over here and we see 1, 2, 3. So 3 people washed when they exited. And so 3. And the hand washing both enter and exit. We can see both enter and exit. We can see we have 2 right here, 1 and 1. And then hand washing at least once. And so this is kind of the backwards one where we're looking for zeros. So we see 1, 2, 3, 4 washed at least once. Only that other one did not. So that would be 4. And then no hand wash, enter or exit, that one person right up here at the top with the 1. They did not at all. And so we're going to do that for each and every group. So we have ED, ICU. I will let you do the rest on your own, and then you're going to total those, and then you're going to find the percentages. And how you're going to find the percentages, since in this section, since we have the number of people who washed divided by 50, because there are 50 people being observed, you will divide it by 50 and then move your decimal places over 2 to find the percentages for both the orange and the yellow, which will be hand wash both and hand wash at least once. Once you finish this part, you're going to look at total hand wash observations and by the total observations to find the total compliance rate. You're going to need all 3 percentages for our next file. And so this percentage is the final one and calculated a little bit different in that we are going to go over here and we're going to count the total number of people washing their hands. And that is going to be by total observations, which would be 100. And so we're going to go in and calculate all those yeses in these 2 columns, E and F. And if you go back over the file that I'm going to send you is going to kind of give you a kind of a quick way to do that outside of the chart. So this is a way to check your answers. And so I give you all of this information over here. It's by counting up all the Y's. By Y's, I mean yeses, and the Y's in the exits. So we have the Y's in the enter, yes in the enter, and the yes in the exit in column E and F. So you're just going to count these. And if you notice, we do have 100 observations because 50 here and 50 here. So that should be 100. And then that'll give you your overall compliance. And once you have that, you can leave this file here, obviously, because we're going to add to it. And close out this file since we didn't need it. And our next file that we're going to open, you're going to be able to go over here to my email. If you forget what's in that scenario, I give these to you again. We're going to go to the email, and then we're going to enter those 3 passwords in. And so we're going to go to the email right here. And we're going to download it and open it. And this will give us a lot of information. It'll kind of tell us what's going on. And it's gonna just kind of explain what's happening on the team. What are we doing next? And I'll let you read through that yourself. And then it's gonna kind of tell you the password that you're gonna use to go to the next file and tell you where to go. So I won't go through that because you can read it. And then our next file is going to be this one right here, which you'll read about in that email. And then it'll tell you the 5-digit code you're going to have to answer to get into it. This is that next file, SMC hand washing CEA projects. You're going to download that and you're going to enter in the password. And here's what that looks like. And this is, I recommend this as your next step, just like before. Go over here and copy. And then remember we had that other Excel sheet that we were creating. I would go over here and then add a sheet. It'll be sheet 2, and I will paste that in. If you notice here, if you right click, you can actually rename that however you'd like, or you can leave it the same. It is really up to you. So now it looks like we have a number of different projects. You can read about them here. We have different names, different costs that they're going to have. And I'm going to go ahead and make our columns just a little bit bigger so they're easier to read, just like they were when we first downloaded. And you'll see we have total costs. And if you've never calculated total costs before, you can go here to the auto sum. And it will light up a set of numbers, and you need to make sure they're the right numbers. If they aren't, you can hold down on the left mouse button and drag up, and it will include all of those. And you can do that the whole way across. Click that auto sum and enter. Conversely, you can Control C and Control V, and you can paste those costs in there. You'll see each one has a particular cost. And that will help you to kind of know, hey, what is this project going to cost us? Down here, it's going to give you the compliance rate. So we are expecting a particular compliance rate for each thing that we do. And some compliance is higher than others. Like for instance, this one is 95% compliance. What you would have noticed in the previous documents that you read is that there is a minimum expected compliance rate. And so there are certain projects, just by looking at this compliance rate, we cannot use just because the compliance rate is too low. In reading some of the documentation, you'll also notice that there is a certain price tag that is too high. So we want to have the project basically, like I said before, with the lowest cost and highest compliance rate. And so first we can immediately off the bat come down here and see the compliance rate is very low. It's going to be lower than that target. And so we would not use this one. So we could go ahead and say not implement compliance rate too low. And you can do that the whole way across because there are several of these we cannot implement because either the cost is too high. I'll give you the answer for this one as well, just to give you another example. This cost is too high. It is over 500K. And if you look through those documents, they say that the compliant or the cost cannot be that high. And so you're going to enter in a justification here. They do not have to be complete sentences. However, you do have to clearly identify your choice. Sometimes students will say, yeah, this one would work, but then they won't actually specify, yes, this one is the one we chose. And you do have to do that. So that should get you in the right track. So our next, we are going to look at our expected compliance rate, which is found here. And so our compliance rate, we are going to find, or our CEA ratio, we're going to use a formula for. And so we are going to type in equals and then parentheses. And we are going to look at this total cost minus the previous total cost, which is 0. And we're going to divide it by our compliance rate, which is here. Oh, I'm sorry, I need a parentheses because we want to make sure we do the subtraction first. So you want to make sure to add that parentheses, our expected compliance minus our previous compliance. So we had 57% before, and we could get up to 68 with this. And that will give us our CEA ratio, which is a number. And we are going to do this for every single one. First, we do equals parentheses cost minus our current cost of 0, parentheses divided by our, and I did it again after parentheses, make sure you add that minus, this would be the 57, which is what we started at. And then you can see that one. What a common error is, sometimes students will compare it to this one. We need to always make sure we're comparing. I might even go ahead and highlight this. We are comparing to this where we're at. We're not comparing to one another. So each project is an individual project and we're going to compare it to the other. And so we're going to get some numbers. And we're going to do that the whole way across to use those formulas. Remember that is going to be the cost, which is found right here, divided by the cost over here, divided by the compliance rate percentage. Once you finish, you can rank them. And then how we're going to rank these is by the lowest CEA ratio. So the lowest would be number 1, and the high would keep going. Obviously, these are probably not correct because I haven't done all of them. But if these were the only 2 I calculated, this one would be a 1 and this one would be a 2. And that is not a $sign. You can go in anytime if it's not formatting your cells correctly and change it to just a number, and it'll get rid of that $sign if that appears for you. If you leave it, it's fine too, I'll understand. But remember, the lowest CEA ratio gets a number 1, and that's all the way across. And that is not dependent on whether you choose to do it or not. And so at the end, you should have, I'll sometimes highlight, these are things you will need to calculate. So you're going to need to calculate all of these. So I will go ahead and highlight those, and you'll figure out which one has that lowest ICER. And you're going to select a certain project. And when you select it, you're going to get information that will help you into your next project. And so that next project, you're going to enter in for that password. You're going to pick, let's say our answer is BioClean. You're going to type in, the cap block is sensitive, so you would capitalize the B and the C, and you're going to follow that by the CEA ratio. So you'll follow it by this. You're going to round to the nearest dollar, and you're not going to include the cents, and you're not going to add the $sign. So if this was our CEA ratio, we would write clean hands 11717, no space, as your next password. And you may be wondering, gee, what is our next document? And so it does tell you in the scenario and the previous information, but it's always good to use the email that I will send to you. And you'll see we're here right now, and it's going to tell us our next one is going to be this SMC, policy and procedure. And we are going to enter the name, like I said, the best project, no spaces, followed by the CEA ratio, do not include the cents. And so we're going to go into that next file. So let's head out and make sure we save this up, because this is the one we're going to submit. We are not going to submit that, so we can be done with it. And then this is that policy and procedure. And we're going to open it up. And then this will give you some information. It is also going to give you a password, and you're going to need that information. And if you'll notice, the policy name that changed, this is a hint for some of the quiz questions, is going to be presented here for you. So it's going to kind of go over this procedure with you, and it's going to give you some information that you will need to take with you, and it'll give you that password hint. So I hope that helps. This is your hint for your password. So then you'll open our final file, which you'll see here is this hand washing observations post. And so we are done with this guy. We do not need to submit him. So this hand washing observations post, we will download and take that password from that previous file that we just looked at. Then we're going to open it back up, and you're going to say, this looks just like that file that we just did at the initial, and you are correct, but this is after. This will be after we have put in our new program. So this is saying they're going to go back in and they're going to look at hand washing again, and we're going to see if it's improved. So every time we institute something, either whether it's, at a hospital, at a university, wherever, we're going to see if we did a good job. So we're going to copy this out. We're going to go to our file that we're creating. If I can find it, book 1. This is the one that I created. See, now we have 2 sheets. We're going to have 3 total sheets. And so you can paste that in. And we are going to do exactly the same thing that we did in the initial. We are going to sort these and find the percent compliance. We do not have to find all the percentages. The only one we have to actually calculate is this. So that way we know how much we have improved. So I'll go ahead and I'll show you how to sort this data again, just because that can be a little tedious. So we'll highlight data and sort, and we're going to sort by our hospital unit because that's how they have it sorted. And then we'll get started again. And you can, I sometimes like to highlight one color, and then when I go to the next one, I'll highlight it another color. That way I'm not confused. Hey, what am I looking at? Because that can be pretty tricky. Just anytime you're doing any counting, it's tricky. So that's one way to do it simply, especially if you have eyes that just struggle to see some of that data quite clearly. And then once again, you're going to save the digit for a future puzzle, and you have fully escaped, and you can go ahead and take the quiz. I recommend making sure you understand everything on it, asking me any questions prior to taking the quiz, and then letting me know what questions you have afterward. And so I kind of go over that here a little bit too. So please follow along with this as you watch the video. If you have questions as you get started, I'm always here to help. And I hope you have a great week too.